What's going on, Claire?
I have this paper due for Mr. Doran, and I came here to do this puzzle to de-stress myself, but I can't even get it started.
Well, what's it about?
Autism?
You done any research yet?
Well, I mean, I have a good start.
Okay, let's see. Okay. I've got some work to do. Do you know anyone who has it?
No?
Do you know what it is?
No, look, I told you, I don't know what this is. I haven't even started my paper, and I'm very stressed about it.
Have you ever heard of the YouTube.com?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's this great website with tons of videos. Oh, I already found one about autism.
We are all different, and that's wonderful. Some differences are easy to see. Height, hairstyle, gender, eye color, and so on. Other differences can't be seen. Our favorite foods, fears, or special skills. Interestingly, the way we see the world is also different. For instance, what do you see in this drawing? Most people see a duck, but some of you might have seen a rabbit. Whichever you saw, you are correct. This is just a trick drawing to show you that all brains work differently. The brain is your body's computer. It works differently for all of us and controls how you learn. That's why we are all good at different things. How you feel, which is why we all feel different emotions. And how you communicate. Sometimes the brain is connected in such a way it affects senses and how we perceive and read situations and interactions. This is known as autism. Many people have autism, so it's likely you already know someone who is autistic. And for this reason, it's useful to know a little bit about autism. The special wiring inside an autistic brain can sometimes make the person good at tasks we may find difficult, such as mathematics, drawing, or music. It can also do the opposite, and activities we find too easy are incredibly difficult to them, such as making friends. The senses constantly send information to your brain about your surroundings and other people. However, when a person's brain and its senses don't communicate well, the brain can become overwhelmed and confused, affecting how they see the world. Picture yourself walking down the street. This is how an autistic brain may experience the same walk. Scary, isn't it? Sadly, in many cases, the person can't say out loud how they feel. So even though there's chaos going on in their heads, they seem okay on the outside, unable to ask for help. We all develop behaviors to help us feel calm in uncomfortable situations. We may look away, hug ourselves, chew our fingernails, fidget, bite our lips, and so on. Equally, autistic people develop behaviors that help them cope with these intense moments. These actions may seem unusual, but they're just their way to feel calm. When they happen, it means they are having a hard time. The kind thing to do is not to give them an even harder time by getting cross, ignoring them, or mocking them. Remember, just because a PlayStation can't read an Xbox game, it doesn't mean it's broken. People with autism need friends who are willing to take the time to know them. With good communication and plenty of patience, everyone would be better off. People with autism are not ill or broken. They simply have a unique view of the world. And with a little support from their friends, they might just be able to share that view with us. Autism can make amazing things happen.
Hey, that is really cool.
I know, the YouTube. And look, a corner piece.
We can do this.
Yeah. Hey, Claire. 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 Hey, Claire. 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 Claire.
Que dia soy.
Did you spend the whole night here?
I guess so.
Well, how's the project coming along?
I feel like I have the big picture. People with autism handle social situations a little differently, and they're more sensitive to things like light and sound and smells, but I just feel like that scratches the surface.
Yeah. I got it. What if we try to find famous people with autism?
That's a good idea, but I can barely keep my eyes open right now to do more research.
Don't worry about it. I got it. Go home and get some sleep.
Really?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep. It turns out that autism is more complex than I ever imagined. It was the puzzle I just couldn't figure out. Throughout my investigation, I keep seeing one term, spectrum. But who is this spectrum? What does it mean? What does it all mean? Sorry, I lost myself there for a minute. I realized I needed to dig deeper. Throughout the long stakeouts and extensive research, I began to discover that autism is not a one-size-fits-all term. It's bigger than that. I soon found out that while some have severe autism, many others are considered to have high-functioning autism. That is to say, a lesser degree of its effects. With the likes of Einstein, Jobs, Edison, Jefferson, Mozart, and Van Gogh, all considered by scholars to have been on the spectrum, one thing has become crystal clear. Autism does not limit one's intellectual abilities.
JT! Come on, dude, I thought you were supposed to be doing my project for me.
I thought I was. I must have fallen asleep.
What's that?
My research.
You really did all this work? All of these famous people fall under the autism spectrum?
Yes, they either have it or experts speculate that they fall on the spectrum based on different characteristics.
Who's this guy?
Anthony Ianni? He was the first person with autism to play Division I basketball, and he played at MSU.
Man, thanks, JT. You rock.
Hey, no problem. What's going on, Claire?
I'm trying to look up more research, but the school's filter keeps blocking me.
Aren't you almost done anyways?
I mean, we are making grounds with people who have autism that are famous, and we know that people with autism fall in different parts of the spectrum. But I just need more information. I need to get an A on this.
Well, I do know one way to get around the student filter.
Wait, you don't mean get on the teacher's computer, right?
How badly do you want an A?
¿Qué hace por aquí?
Estoy haciendo mi tarea, pero tengo que irme. Adiós.
Why didn't you answer your phone? I tried to tell you he was coming.
It was on silent.
Oh my god.
You wouldn't believe all the information I found. Did you know that people who have autism are more likely to follow a strict routine?
You mean like doing the same things at the same times every day?
Yeah, so they use that routine as like a coping mechanism. So if you see somebody who has autism that's looking stressed, it just might be a bump in their routine. I would have never thought of that to be a stress trigger.
Does that mean you're done with your project?
Not quite. I just feel like the computer is not giving me all the information I need.
Well, why don't you just ditch the computer for something else?
That's just my work.
Hi, Hastings High School. I'm JT Morgan, and I'm here with...
Charles Perry.
Nice to meet you, Charles Perry.
Hi, Carlene. My name is Claire Anderson.
And we're here with Mrs. Enyart,
Hi, Mr. McCann. How are you?
and I'm here with Dr. Dietz.
Here we have a written submission by Madison Leidy who would like to share her story of how autism has affected her. All right, so today I'm going to ask you a few questions on autism.
My first question for you is, what does autism mean to you?
Well, it's not the definition you're going to find in the dictionary for sure.
It's hard for me to express my feelings and to be like in social like engagements with people.
Autism, to me, I've learned it's big about the senses. What happens is the senses that we normally see, like the lights, sound, taste, touch, smell, those kinds of things, those are very much amplified and in different ways depending on what your particular type of autism is.
Most simply put, and as the student body learns more about autism, a lot of autism has to do with sensory perceptions, that the person with autism understands their senses in a way that's different than us. So sound
Right.
is different. Certain colors can cause an autistic person a different reaction than we would have.
To me, it's a condition that gets way too much of a bad reputation. Autism is a spectrum, but when people think of autism, they think of kids who fall under the lower end of that spectrum. I happen to fall on the higher end.
It's easy to say when somebody has a particular disability or there's a diagnosis of a certain thing that they fit into like one specific hole, and autism is definitely not one of those things.
Autism is, to me, is a different way of thinking from my own, and a way of experiencing the world that is different from the way I experience it.
Autism to me means beauty. It's a beautiful mind that works in your non-traditional way. It's confusing and frustrating and all of those things, but it's amazing. If you just sit back and watch someone with autism and just the way their mind works, it's amazing and it's beautiful, and it takes you away from the here and now and the craziness of life, because people with autism, they don't care about that stuff. You know, they care about what's right in front of them, and just to watch them and see how their mind works, it's beautiful.
An awesome experience, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
So the second thing I'm going to ask you is, have you had any like personal experiences that have affected your life or anybody else that you know's life?
Yes, my son is on the autism spectrum disorder, and he he's had a rough time.
My son Sean, who's 12, he'll be 13 in May, was diagnosed with autism around his 3rd birthday, so it's now been almost 10 years, and it is an everyday part of my life. There are certain challenges, there's certain things that are very interesting and eye-opening to learn about this as we go through this together, my wife and I, with our son.
I've got a grandson that's 8 who has autism, and I've got a grandson who is 12 and he has autism.
Well, I have 3 grandsons, and one of them is Paxton, and he is diagnosed with autism. And so I right away felt that there was something that I didn't understand about his experiencing the world, and in terms of how even holding on to him as a young baby, as a newborn, how he didn't feel comfortable in my arms, you could tell.
So the sense of touch, my grandson will not wear any jeans because that's going to be itchy on his skin and it just rubs and it just feels really bad. The moms have to order clothes that don't have any tags on them because the tags will really rub on them and then they just can't stand it. And so it's like, it might feel like there's a bee sting in them as opposed to just us, we have a tag, it's no big deal.
My wife and I have read a lot about autism, books, articles online. My wife's parents, my parents, so the grandparents are very much aware of this. They've tried to help us. They're a part of Sean's life very much. They're aware of his disability and some of the behavioral components with that. And a lot of learning, a lot of reading.
Right.
In the early days, there were groups of people, other parents who had children with autism, so we would participate in those and kind of exchange or trade ideas back and forth, some of which worked really well and some others, well, a lot less than well.
I met my first therapy doctor, which was his name was Brad, and he helped me with. It was kind of hard to, talk to him because I was always shy and didn't want to open up with him. And he helped me through it, and it was a good experience. I felt, and a couple years past and later, I'm using the skills he taught me.
I think his middle name is Triumph. He succeeded all of our expectations and all of the limitations that people tried to put on them. He blew them out of the water. But it was tough. School's tough. Kids are not real accepting of kids that are different. As he got older, the kids got meaner, and the bullying got pretty crazy to the point, we had to pull him out of school because he just couldn't deal with things, and we saw him changing, and we were really concerned.
How does it affect me? Mostly it affects my emotional communication. I might say the wrong things at the wrong time. I can't properly vent my anger or sadness sometimes. Sometimes the smallest things can set me off, which scares people away.
I know my grandson doesn't always have someone to sit with him at lunch, or doesn't have classmates that necessarily understand his needs or some of his behaviors.
Well, he didn't have any friends. He never got invited to anything, and he had 3 sisters who were very social and went to everything, and he was always left at home, and when his birthday would come around, he didn't have any friends to invite over. There's certain things that he cannot do, certain activities that he cannot do because it stirs up, bad memories. And he would come home and shut down and be like, Mom, I got called a moron today, and he'd be really upset, but we're persevere, we need to educate these guys, we need to let them know that you're just as good. You just, it takes you a little bit longer.
When I was teaching in 7th grade, I was teaching a student that was on the spectrum. And when I put the equal sign on the other side, so for instance, you're used to 2 + 3 = 5. Well, the book had put 5 = 3 + 2. That completely set that person off because it just was out of the normal. It just wasn't right. And if I didn't know about that, if I didn't know, if I wasn't sensitive to that, I would just think that he was throwing a fit. Why are you making such a big deal about it? But I knew it was something that changed and that just, they couldn't explain it, they couldn't understand it, they couldn't get past it. That happens.
Final question is, what would you like to tell Hastings High School?
What I like to tell Hastings High School is that when you see somebody who's different, sometimes there's a reason for it.
The biggest thing is understand that everyone is different and that's okay.
I want people in this school, staff and students alike, to realize that autism isn't a disease you can catch, nor can it be cured by a vaccine. I also can't express my disdain enough towards students who use autistic as an insult.
On the Saxon Strong matrix, there's the O for open-minded, and that's a cliche, that's kind of a catchphrase we use for a lot of things.
Right.
I think in this case, in regards to being open-minded, I think it applies a lot to autism.
I think that Hastings High School should really respect and be patient with some students that have autism.
And then with open-minded, I would go with kind. We have to be kind to people, and it's not that this person is intentionally being disruptive by a reaction to one of those sensory perceptions, but
Right.
they just handle that differently. And I think as a community, as a school, we should be open-minded towards that and be kind to those individuals, understanding that those reactions come from that different understanding of those senses.
You should not just take somebody being different as thinking, okay, they're a loser. Just allow for differences.
So embrace our differences. Give these kids a chance because seriously, they'll probably be the truest friend you'll ever have. And they are amazing if you just give them a chance to be your friend. You'll never regret it. Just give them a chance.
And I think increasing your patience and your understanding and respect and always offering kindness is what I would hope that students would gain from this.
I'm glad to see more and more people that are becoming more aware of the entire autism spectrum, rather than just the stereotypical symptoms in classic autism. If you want to see something cool, find a list of famous people that have had autism or are speculated to have autism. You'd be surprised to see what's on it. Or talk to me. I'd love to tell you more about my experiences.
I would like to tell the Hastings High School that autism is a gift, and it's very sometimes hard for kids, but it's very, very it's meaningful, and I am gifted to have it.
Okay, Charlie, one last thing I'd like to say is thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with the school and helping us better understand what autism is.
You're welcome.
Vamonos, JT, we gotta go to the assembly. Wait, gotta turn this in first. Mr. Doran, I got my paper.
Wait, what about the puzzle?
Oh yeah,